Call of Duty has had hundreds and hundreds of weapons throughout its 20-year history, and we've had incredible weapons like the MP40 and AScR, but we've also had some not so great ones, which is what we're diving into today with the top 20 worst COD weapons of all time. 20th, the M16 from MW 2022. With newer CODs, they buff and nerf weapons all the time, which make it a little bit difficult to classify the weapons as terrible or great. But with the M16 from MW 22, I'm specifically talking about it at launch before they buffed it into an okay gun. Ever since Call of Duty 4, the developers are always scared to make another M16 too good, so they went the opposite direction with this one and made it way too bad. The damage felt crazy and consistent, then they gave it crazy horizontal recoil that made the shots after the first burst go everywhere. Luckily they buffed it, but at launch it was one of the worst COD weapons of all time. 19th, the HVR from Infinite Warfare. This SMG had one great stat. It had the best range of all subs in IW, and the damage fall-off was so small, with only it being 5 lower at the second range, it actually didn't take any more shots to kill. So you might be thinking, why is it on this list? Because it had the slowest fire rate of all subs and the smallest mag at a super weird 26 bullets. Why did they pick that? Then the other reason is this game had classic weapons, with one of them being the MACTAV 45, aka the UMP 45, and it was exactly like the HVR, except it was way better, in large part due to it having less recoil. There was no reason to ever use this SMG. And let me know which COD gun you think is the worst of all time, and should be number 1 on this list. 18, the S12 from Black Ops 2. The first shotgun on this list. And in Black Ops 2, we had the Remington and KSG as elite shotguns that left the S12 in the dust. So what made the S12 so mediocre? How quickly its damage fell off. Its first range went out super far, all the way to 3.75 meters. Then it fell off again at 7.5 and 12.5 meters, before doing 0 damage at 15. Yes, it's a shotgun and should be a close range weapon, but this is astoundingly bad. It's also the worst damage shotgun in Black Ops 2, with no wall penetration or bonus headshot damage. So even though it has the best fire rate for shotguns in BO2, it couldn't make up for all the other problems, including having the slowest reload, which is a poor combination with having the fastest fire rate. The S12 could be fun to use, but it was very bad. These videos take a lot of effort to make, so please like this video if you want to see me make more. I appreciate it. And using these weapons was absolutely horrible. 17, the Sidewinder from MW3. I don't think I've ever hated a weapon more at launch of a game than the Sidewinder. When I was unlocking camos for this thing, it was terrible. Luckily, it's been buffed since then, so now it's an acceptable level of bad, but at first, this weapon felt like it was straight out of Fortnite with Bloom, where your bullets didn't go where you aimed consistently. I would have my sights right on the enemy, but your shots would go left, right, up, down, without you ever moving the weapon at all. It made absolutely 0 sense, and the 375 rounds per minute made it very unforgiving if you missed any shots at all, which was guaranteed with the Fortnite Bloom. Screw that gun. Also, I'm doing a face reveal at 100k subs, so make sure to hit that button if you want to see me, or if you just want to support me. 16, the MK14 from Advanced Warfare. For every gun that is from AW on this list, I'm talking about the base variant, because all the weapons have at minimum a slightly better version. Alright, first, the MK14 has a great fire rate for a semi-automatic weapon that allows you to hit the trigger as fast as you can, and it does high damage. But the problem with a semi-auto weapon in AW is that it's much harder to hit your shots in a game where every player is flying around. So the only way to make this weapon effective in Advanced Warfare was if you could consistently hit headshots with it, or if you played in lobbies where players just stayed on the ground. This MK14 was a victim of the game it was in, which is why it made the list. 15, M60 from Cold War. I've never been a fan of big lumbering weapons, and this is by far the worst M60 in Call of Duty history. The fire rate is terrible at 535 rounds per minute, while having higher recoil with some of the worst iron sights ever. The only saving grace is that it had higher damage that allowed you to take people out with 2 to 3 shots. This made it so it could be effective at mid-range if you didn't move at all, and pre-aimed down sight. Basically, if you camped, you could take out some people with shotguns and SMGs, but you'd still lose to snipers and assault rifles if they spotted you. Personally, I hate sitting in one spot while playing COD, and I'm moving around most of the time, so the M60's terrible movement, ADS, strafe, and much more while having terrible iron sights made it awful for any player who liked to move at all. 14, the HS-10 from Black Ops 1. This is 100% the most fun gun to use on this list, but it doesn't mean that it was good. Just like the S12, it will do 0 damage past 15 meters, but its first range actually goes all the way out to 7.5 meters, meaning it should be better. But it has a few extra problems. First, you're only going to have 4 bullets before you have to reload, with no possibility of that changing. Second, it takes more pellets to hit in the first range to one-shot. Third, it has a slower fire rate than the S12. And fourth, it has a bad hipfire pellet spread, meaning it's much better when you ADS. But it was super fun to use akimbo even if it wasn't effective. So, I still love this bad weapon from Black Ops 1. 13. The M1 Garand from Vanguard. This one is interesting because if you remember Vanguard weapons, they actually had attachments that could change the damage and the fire rate, which completely changed how the weapon performed and how good it was. The problem is that the M1 Garand, no matter what, was going to have a small mag, with 16 being the biggest one. And its base fire rate was very slow at 300 rounds per minute, but we had certain attachments to raise that and lower the damage, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter too much what you did, because it was just going to change whichever problem you had with the weapon. 12. The CBJ MS from Ghosts. This SMG had a super fast fire rate and was decent out to 10 meters, but then it started to struggle. At 20 meters, it just became awful. You might be thinking, a sub is decent to 10 meters? Why is it the 12th worst weapon in Call of Duty history? Well, this gun is in COD Ghosts, the Call of Duty with the largest average size for its multiplayer maps, which made weapons that specialize at close range exclusively struggle. And on top of that, it was nowhere near the best weapon at close range. 2 quick examples are the MTAR-X and Vector, which destroyed everything at close range, and they could actually be used out to mid-range as well. Then shotguns like the Bulldog destroyed the CBJ up close as well, so if it was in a different game, it wouldn't have been as bad. 11. FTAC Recon from MW 2022. It has similar problems to the M1 Garand from Vanguard by having a 15-round mag being the biggest one. But the problem is even worse because it has a 50% faster fire rate and lower damage. So we have less damage per mag, and it emptied it out faster. So even though at closer ranges it can kill faster than the Garand did, it's worse because if you encounter multiple enemies, you have to limit how fast you're shooting it to make sure you don't miss too much, and you can take them out before you need to reload the mag. And if you're firing it slower, it's obviously gonna kill people slower. I just don't know why they have weapons like this. 10th, the trench gun from World at War. Shotguns in World at War were not the move. The pump action on the shotgun was extremely slow, which was its main weakness, along with its slow ADS speed and poor iron sights, which made it most effective while hip firing. But the only problem with this is that it had a tighter pellet spread, which usually goes with shotguns you like to aim down sight with. And with all of this added together, you got a bad weapon that almost guaranteed death if you didn't take out the enemy with your first shot. 9. EPM-3 from Advanced Warfare. This was an LMG, but they were called heavy weapons in Advanced Warfare, and for some reason it was a semi-automatic energy gun. Yeah, really weird. You didn't have to reload it unless you overheated the weapon by firing it too fast. And its fire rate capped out at 1,200 rounds per minute, which is crazy and impossible to accomplish with a trigger finger. While you may think this sounds like it has high potential, it overheated after taking only 11 shots. That is abysmal. And like I said for the Advanced Warfare MK14, the semi-auto weapons are very difficult to use in a game with exosuits, and this weapon takes more shots to kill and essentially has a smaller magazine, which makes it worse, while trying to basically fill the same role in the game. 8. Sawed-off shotgun from COD World War II. Double barrel shotguns are something that is either incredible like the 7.25 in MW 2019, fun like the Olympia in Black Ops 1, or straight garbage like the sawed-off shotgun. The problem with this one is the range is poor, the damage isn't good enough for a gun, with only 2 shells, and the reload is painfully slow. So while you can pretty much guarantee that you can take out one person because you can fire 2 shots as fast as you want, you are guaranteed dead after if any enemy is close by. 7. SVT-40 from COD World War II. We got back-to-back entries for COD World War II. This gun has one of the most useless attachments of all time, with rapid fire giving it a 16 round per minute improvement. I hope no one used it. And from that, you probably gathered that its base fire rate was horrible, which made the 10 round mag not as big of a deal, but once you got past mid-range, it became a 3-shot kill, and that means it was unusable there while still being bad at closer ranges. It was a gun people shouldn't use if they wanted to stay sane. 6th, the F2000 from Modern Warfare 2. I'm guessing this is my most controversial pick in the video. Some players defend this weapon with their full hearts, but they are wrong. Sure, the gun had an insanely fast fire rate, but the recoil was horrible in a game with no recoil. Its damage was also very low, and these aren't great combos, but in a different game, this weapon might have been okay. But what games these guns fall into greatly affect how bad they are and where they're placed on this list. The F2000 had to compete against the FAMAS, which is statistically more powerful than the COD 4 M16, the ACR that had zero recoil, and the SCAR that hit like a truck. Then for people who argue it was a close-range AR, it had to go up against the UMP-45 and every shotgun where it got destroyed. In a game of everything being overpowered, the F2000 wasn't, and it was easy to tell by being the worst gun in the game. Fifth, the Draken from BO3. It acts like the other marksman rifles or semi-auto ARs in this video, except it is so much worse because it's classified as a sniper rifle. Why is that so bad? Because it gets worse handling stats, has higher zoom optic, meaning you have to use it like it's a sniper, while it performs more like a marksman. And it is not good. If you want to snipe, you should just use an actual sniper. And if you want a semi-auto powerhouse, you just had to use the Shiva. And if you want to torture yourself, the Drakon was the weapon for you. Fourth, the Uzi from Black Ops 1. In a game where the assault rifles dominated and the SMGs didn't get much love outside of the AK-74U and MP5K, the Uzi stood out as the absolute worst of the 10 SMGs in Black Ops 1, which is crazy to think that that game had 10 subs. I bet most of you can't even name all of them. So what makes it so bad? The damage is low, the iron sights are horrible, making it incredibly difficult to see while you aim down sight, and the recoil is very high, which all combined make the 17.5 meter range much less useful, because it is very difficult to hit your shots. I hate this gun with a passion, and it's from my favorite Call of Duty. 3. AMR-9 from Advanced Warfare, a burst SMG. I thought I would love it because I usually enjoy the burst subs like the Chicum from Black Ops 2 before it, or the Pharaoh from BO3 after it, but this one is not like the others. First, it's a 5-round burst instead of 3. Second, it has a bad range of only 8 meters. And third, it always felt like it was impossible to hit all of your shots in a burst, which made it take 2 to 3 bursts to take someone out every single time. It also had the slowest fire rate on SMGs in Advanced Warfare, and it was difficult to get the max fire rate with the delay in between bursts. It was doo-doo. Second, VLK Rogue from MW 2019. This shotgun almost performs like the trench gun from World at War with the slow fire rate, but it feels so much worse than MW 2019. For one, the other guns around it are in general better. Then the maps are pretty big, but the main issue is the campy style of play and the many long lines of sight. The only way to use the gun and have any success would be to sit in a corner and wait for someone to run by, because if someone sees you first with this weapon, you are 100% losing. You guys got any final guesses for number 1? The worst weapon in Call of Duty history is the Dragunov from Black Ops 1. Which Call of Duty had the most challenging to use sniper rifles that required players to have some skill? Black Ops 1 easily. And which sniper was the worst in BO1? The Dragunov without a doubt. It did 70 damage, meaning it was a 2-shot kill while having horrible movement and terrible sway when you aim down sight. I don't know of a way anyone could use this weapon effectively. It wasn't even fun to mess around with in a game that had no skill-based matchmaking. It just truly sucked as the worst weapon in COD history. But enough with my thoughts on the worst weapons. Here's the community's top 25 weapons in Call of Duty history. Click here. Peace.